wanted to begin by talking to you about Thailand's economic recovery. Now, the recovery we're seeing has in large part been aided by a government economic stimulus package of roughly $4.5 billion. Most of these measures are now coming to an end. Do you have plans to extend these measures so that you can support the more vulnerable parts of society, or as you just said, to ensure that no one gets left behind?
Well, actually, for the past almost 3 years, right, during the pandemic, I think the fiscal policy has been playing an important part in the economy, while the monetary policy has playing down, okay, giving the room for the fiscal policies to work. So during the difficult time, particularly for the poor and people who losing their jobs during the pandemic, I think the government has helped a lot, both in cash transfer. At the same time, we need to stimulate domestic economy. So there are two measures. One is the cash handout program to help the people.
Yeah.
And secondly, to stimulate the domestic economy, particularly for the small vendor and for the people who have fixed income to spend more in domestically. It's not only the cash transfer and the stimulus package, but also we doing the projects on the traveling together to promote the domestic tourism, because all hotels and restaurants were closed at that time. So at least the Thai people had a chance to visit the countryside, spending time, the holidays in the luxury hotels, with the government support of 40% of the room rate, as well as giving another voucher for spending. But I think since the government lifted all the COVID restriction, then I think the fiscal policy has to playing less role and giving the room for the monetary policy to work, which is the same as in other countries as well. So you would see that it's not only the Fed Fund, the Federal Reserve, they're raising the interest rate in the United States, but also we are carefully, the central bank is carefully raising the interest rate. So I think our government stimulus package, particularly broad-based, will be coming more targeting to the vulnerable groups. And now for example, especially the social welfare card will be the one that the one program that we are supporting. So it goes to the low-income people. At the same time, during this time, when the oil price has been hiking, then the government also support certain groups of the people who are using the energy.
How long do you expect these packages to run, this support?
I think for the broad-based stimulus package will be less and less, and then we let the economies to work, because the people just come back to work. The hotels open, and the factories open up to more than 100% capacity. So people get more income right now, although some of them may not get the 100% as before the COVID. So people have the ability to pay. So let's the market work.
Yes, and rely less on stimulus measures. Now, you talked about central banks raising rates. What's your advice to the Bank of Thailand that has started raising interest rates, especially as household debt levels remain high, close to 90%, and the recovery we are seeing a recovery, but it remains fragile?
Well, central bank is more independent.
Yes.
Okay. So I cannot advise more, but
friendly advice.
We consult. I cannot say that how much the interest rate will go up, but when we talk to the governor of Bank of Thailand, that because the inflation in Thailand is basically from the cost side, the cost push. So the central banks understand very well, and we have to make sure that our economy fully recover. That's another factor that apart from the, keeping our interest gap close to the international or the Federal Reserve rate. Okay. So I think they are concerned about the full recovery of the economy, and we agree that for the government spending should go to the more targeting group. You're talking about the household debt. Household debt is one of the, I think being in debt, I think is normal. It's normal life. If you don't have any debt, I think you are rich anyway. Okay.
Now,
so keeping the debt can be financed is the issue for us. So right now, the Ministry of Finance, together with the state-owned banks, that we organize the kind of the forum, kind of act event to call for the people who has debt and people who are in non-performing loans to come to the bank, and then we help them to resolve the restructure the debt. So extending the debt payment, I think one of the things, and cutting the sum of interest and the principal as well. So I think as long as you're able to pay back the debt, I think it's okay. And remember, 70% of the debt, 70% of the debt of household debt is go for the housing.
It's for housing.
Yeah, housing and the vehicles, which vehicles they use for so business, for small business. So we have to look at whether they have the assets or not. If they keep consuming, I think that's not good. That's not good.
Very quickly, I want to talk to you about inflation. We've been talking in just the last few minutes about how interconnected the world is now, and inflation is a huge global story at the moment. And here in Thailand also, inflation is shooting at around 6%, almost double the upper band of the central bank target. Is inflation something you are getting concerned about? Are you keeping an eye on it? And what might you do to bring it under control?
I think it's a global concern, and also in Thailand. But looking at the October is 6%, and for the whole year that we expect about 6.2, which is not so high. I think it's moderate. It's moderate. But the thing is, we have to help the people. So supporting the vulnerable groups is one of our policies. Apart from changing the behavior of the farmer, because the fertilizer cost has been going up. So turning from the chemical to the organic is one of the things that we are helping them.
And my last question, because I know we're out of time, is globally, the economic outlook is pretty grim at the moment, and everyone you talk to is talking about how they're fearful that we're headed for a deep global recession. Are you worried about that?
From the point of view of the government, of course we worry, but our policy is we are reversing the global trend. Okay, because globally there are two major economies: the United States and the European countries. But if you look at the Asian economies, our forecast for next year is higher than this year, mainly because of our performance in our export of goods. And look at the November figure, the foreign tourists coming to Thailand, reaching almost 9 million, which is all year we expect 10 million. 10 million is 1/4 of the pre-COVID number. So I think we're quite satisfied. We're quite satisfied with the number of the tourism and the export performance. So I think this will be one of the engine for the next year. So as compared to this year, I think, of course, many people are looking at the impact of the global recession, that Thailand will also face the same problem. Lower the economic growth is okay, but if you look at the trend is upward. Its trend is upward. The only thing is that the Chinese economy. There are two superpower, European countries and the United States. Of course, they expect the recession. But if you look at the Chinese economy, the only thing is the zero COVID policy. If the zero COVID has been lifted, then I'm sure that there are more Chinese people will come to Thailand, more and more. And I'm quite sure that the Chinese will also help when we're talking about a global supply chain disruption.
Yes.
And China is one of the countries who will supply all the electronic parts and components to the automobiles industry and the electronic industry. So I think as long as you keep the COVID restriction, I think that will be the big cost for the economy, which is the same as in Thailand over the past year, that economy and COVID must go
they work
together.
hand in hand,
Yeah.
yes, of course. Well, as you said,
And
yes.
in inflation, you're talking inflation, whether that will have the impact to the economy. I think, as I said, the inflation is very moderate, and the government has some measures to help the people. So it's not going to impact our GDP forecast. And apart from that, investment, domestic investment, particularly for the Eastern Economic Corridor, the major infrastructure will continue.
Well, inflation is moderate. There's an upward trend. So that's a good positive note to leave it on. Thank you so much for joining us, Minister.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure.
Great.